lesson 7. The subject is Santosha. And you see in the very first paragraph that the basis for Santosha is in fact Saucha, purity. The practice of purity. But the handout doesn't explain why. And the reason is very simple. Human beings have a tendency to be lazy. And what better to have an excuse to be lazy, even from a higher authority. So the editor of the handouts very appropriately put a picture of the Buddha next to that paragraph, because Buddhism is promoting contentment. So you see Buddhists always smiling as an expression of their practice of contentment, and that's good. But like everything else, from philosophy, ancient texts, it is widely misinterpreted. And there are many, especially in the government. Government officials use Santosha as a reason to constantly postpone. So when you go, that's not happening in Korea. In Korea, everything is pali-pali. But you go to the Netherlands, or you go to any country in the world, any continent, it's very likely when you need something from the government, like a document or something, or a permit, that you have to wait for weeks. In Korea, 1 day. Elsewhere, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes a year, 2 years. Procedure after procedure after procedure. There is no commitment there. There is no engagement there. People are being lazy. Let me give you another example. My grandfather on my mother's side, he was very content. But the rest of the family was suffering. Suffering and hungry. My mom was born in the 30s of the last century. And there was an economic crisis all over the world, a depression. It's called the Depression, the Great Depression, between the two world wars. So, people were poor. People were living on food stamps. And my mom comes from a family of 6, and my grandfather, he was only just smiling, like the Buddha. While my mom and her siblings and her mother, they were sharing 2 eggs. Everyone would receive a quarter of an egg, a boiled egg. And when they got milk on food stamps, they would fill 1 liter of milk, they would fill up with 1 liter of water. And my granddad was just sitting there smiling. He was a shoe repairman. He could have done anything else, but he just stuck to his ambition to be a shoe repairman, which had problems in itself, because the neighbors, he did it at home, so the neighbors complained about the noise, so they had to move several times. Just imagine a family, 6 children, having to move time and time again. No money, no food. And he was very content. That is, of course, just avoiding your responsibilities. I mean, we would visit every Sunday when I was a child, a toddler child, and I remember so clearly the picture of him sitting there. He was really enjoying. I come from a big family also, so 7 children over the floor playing around, and he would really enjoy that. At that time, of course, I didn't understand what I know now about the suffering of my mom and her brothers and sisters. He would sit there and Sunday, these days Sunday is not so special anymore, but in the past was very special. In the morning you go to church, then you have a special breakfast, and dad or granddad would then drink a glass of Geneva with a big cigar, and he would just sit there blowing smoke like a Buddha, big smile. Surely he was content, but if it goes at the cost of your children, your wife, or your partner, it's not pure anymore. If you are responsible for people's well-being, you have to take that responsibility. You have to step up to the plate and do what you have to do for those people's health and well-being. And that's why this is important, because a human being instinctively, naturally has a tendency to be lazy. So that is why it is connected with purity. Contentment, you know, my mom, growing into a teenager during the Second World War, growing up in poverty, not only my mom, but countries in war usually are relatively struggling. All the supply lines are breached, broken, or if not very difficult. Supplies very difficult. But my mom, I remember her saying many times while we were growing up as kids in relative wealth, my mom always said, during the war, when people had nothing, people were much happier than they are now. I think Korean people, having lived through the Korean War, 50 to 53, and the incredible poverty during and after the war, many years after the war that continued, I think your parents, grandparents will have the same experience. People were much more connected with each other, much more social, much more willing to help and support each other, even while they had nothing themselves. And people were content. But by default, because if you have nothing, there is nothing to desire. Because the moment you feel that desire rising up in you, you know, rationally thinking, it's not there, so it's useless. But the challenge of this time, almost every subject we discussed so far, I mentioned the challenge of the modern time that we live in. Because everything is there. The abundance of goods, most of which we don't really need, beyond our basic needs. That makes it very challenging to control our desires and to be content, basically, with a roof over our head, even water coming from the tap, electricity from the plugs, and a couple of meals a day. And yet, because there is so much available that we don't have yet, it's very difficult to be content. It is explaining why people are always in a rush. Because the discontent causes us always to be in a hurry. Always in a hurry to go from A to B. Always in a hurry to get what we want or think we need. So it causes a lot of restlessness. And that is what this is about. If you can adopt the quality of contentment, you become much more peaceful, much more sattvic. Remember, tamas, rajas, harmony, sattva. Now, why is this important? Sattva is not a luxury. Remember, and I will repeat many times during this course, the value of sattva is very widely misunderstood. Although people at higher levels of government, they always talk about we have to keep the peace, we have to maintain stability. Governments don't want riots. Governments don't want restlessness. Governments don't want things to stir up. It's exactly the same. Your sattva on a personal level, inside your heart, inside your mind, is comparable to the sattva or the harmony on a larger level in society. If there is restlessness, chaos, development stops, evolution stops. I gave the example of children in school. When children grow up in disharmonious environment, they fail in school. Their performance in school is very low. Their scorecard at the end of the semester is very poor. While children that grow up in stable environment, stable family, harmonious family, they thrive. As an adult, it's exactly the same. As a yogi, you will see, and I gave you another example of me comparing myself with people that I know from 20, 30, 40 years ago. Everybody's still the same, just 20, 30, 40 years older, with marginal changes. As a yogi, however, once you start practicing yoga, even without noticing it, there is a constant process of growth, development, and change taking place as a result of your sattva. How do you introduce contentment into your life? You have to do this consciously. The moment that you feel you are discontent, you feel restlessness occurring inside you because you want to have a German car, just for example. You want to have a Porsche, a BMW. Everybody's talking about it, don't they? It's a status symbol. If you can have one, it gives sattva too, but that's another story. Most of the times, if you cannot afford it and you get one anyway, it gives a lot of misery. Contentment means that when you feel that need, that you consciously step in and say, hey, but I have a car already. And it never breaks down. Yes, it's not a German car, but every time I drive it, it does what I want it to do. It drives me from here to there. I enjoy the purr of that engine. It doesn't have to be a big 6 or 8 cylinder engine. It's good as it is. And if that's not enough, you say to yourself, what would I do without that small car that I have? You want to have a bigger house, but you have a roof over your head already. Compare yourself with people living in the park or in the street. Every time when people complain, I try to hold a mirror in front of them. There are so many people. About food waste. We are wasting so much food. If you look at the numbers, the official numbers, we throw away like 1/3 of all the food that we buy in the supermarket. Perfectly good food. I never throw away unless it's rotten. You have a fridge, put it in the fridge, you can eat it tomorrow. Why? Because there are so many people suffering hunger who do not even have a fridge, who do not know whether they are going to have something to eat tonight or not. It's something you need to implement into your life consciously. That is contentment. Everybody wants to have an exquisite meal from the Thai restaurant or the Japanese restaurant or the Korean restaurant. There are some very good restaurants in this neighborhood, by the way. Be satisfied with what you have. The whole wheat bread and the rice and the kimchi and contentment is really something that you do consciously, and it has huge implications in your life. But playfully, like everything else, playfully. It starts with being conscious, and then rationally deciding, basically choosing not to go along in the behavior that discontent is causing. Discontent is causing conflicts, it is causing families to break up, it is causing disharmony in the workplace, it's causing disharmony everywhere. Contentment. But not as an excuse for laziness. In the last paragraph, you see something that is actually applying to addictions. It is not mentioned using that word, but it applies to addictions. It applies also to certain kinds of behavior that we know is not good, but we cannot control yet. Contentment also means to accept things as they are. You like to drink a beer, but every time you do so, you drink too much. And every time, for years, every time the next morning you wake up, you say, oh my God, I should have gone home a little earlier. I know I should have. Why did I do it again? Okay, if you want to get rid of that habit, first of all, you just have to stop fighting against it. Stop regretting it. The next morning when you wake up and you put your hand on your head and you say, oh my God, I should have, then you say to yourself, yes, but I enjoyed myself. Talking with people, drinking together. I don't like that I drink too much in the process, but let's try to take control of that. Next time when you go out again and drink beer and meet friends and what have you, enjoy it, but try to do it a little bit more conscious than the last time. Even count glasses. How many did you drink? Last time you drank 10 and you woke up with a headache. Try to drink 8 today, or 9. And try play with it. But contentment in this case, it sounds a little bit awkward, but it means to accept the bad in the first place. Because in yoga there is no good and bad. Things are just as they are, and if you take that as a starting point, you can transform it, you can change it. The thing is, it takes time. It can take a lot of time. Years. I use the example of drinking beer because that's me. I liked drinking beer Friday, Saturday night. Not to be an alcoholic. Not to be an alcoholic, I controlled it from Sunday evening until Thursday evening. Not drinking a drop. A Friday evening, Saturday evening, I would drink beer. And then just go home and sleep and wake up with a headache. Well, you avoid the headache drinking a lot of water. As a yogi, of course, you do everything you can to reduce the hangover. So no headache, but feeling miserable. And it would take 2-3 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, to start feeling good again. It took years, but it's under control. I barely drink anymore, just a little bit of wine now and then. If I were not a yoga practitioner, a yogi, I would now have a big beer belly, like many Dutch men, they have big beer bellies, and be very content, but very unhealthy. Content for the wrong reasons, just because you can. Unhealthy. with high blood pressure and heart problems and kidney problems and what have you. If you are in a situation at work, if you are in a situation in your family, many people are, I know, that you're not satisfied about, in a very bad way, even that you're pulling out all your hair, you're screaming, you're very desperate to get out of that situation. You make your life very miserable if you react to undesirable situations in such a way. The reason why we act and react like that in such a situation is because we act and react following our animal instinct. We don't think rationally about the situation. We just act with our lower chakras, with anger, with fear, with emotion. Ego is always involved in the processes, especially with conflicts and undesirable situations. In the workplace, where you hate your co-workers and your manager and your boss, at home maybe with your parents or your in-laws. This will happen to every yogi. All of you will get in a situation like that, that it has been a situation that has existed for many years. And for many years it has made your life miserable every day. But no way out, no solution. And all you can do is just lament your miserable situation, your miserable existence. Oh, look at me, I'm so miserable. God, help me. That is very sad, of course. People should not make each other so miserable all the time. Yogis know that, but most people don't. So you end up in those situations. Can't avoid it. You may be in such a situation right now. From today, you approach it differently. Instead of feeling miserable, but helpless, not knowing how to get out of that situation, first and foremost, accept it as it is. That is practice of contentment. First and foremost, accept it as it is. That will calm you down. That will allow you to look at the situation for the first time in many years from a very different angle, from a very different perspective. And now that you have first accepted that it is as it is, your consciousness changes and looks at it from another angle, from above, overlooking not only the people that caused the situation, or according to your experience, you feel that they are responsible for your misery, but you start seeing yourself, most importantly, from another perspective, as a third person. And it is then, in this condition, that you very naturally start to see a solution. It is in this condition that you start to see what you need to do to change that situation and reduce or even get rid of the misery. Is that easy? No, not at all. If it were easy, everybody would do it, and everybody is in a miserable situation. But for you as a yogi, you start practicing contentment. That is one of the things that you start doing in your life, because it's one of the most dominant things that is, in fact, obstructing not only your life in general, but your happiness, your well-being. So start first to accept it. No emotion, no anger, no blame. The people that make you miserable, family or colleagues or your boss, don't blame. It's useless. Blame is useless. It's lost energy and it just makes things worse. Just try to figure out what it is that you can do. Only you are responsible for your life, for your happiness, for your well-being, for your future. And it starts with this. And you will see it really works. Little by little, based upon what you start realizing, upon what you start seeing that you couldn't see before, little by little you will start taking control. It doesn't happen in a day, a week, or a month. Sometimes it takes years. Just like with drinking beer, being in a miserable situation that has existed for the last 20, 30, 40 years, it takes many years to change that. But at least from today, it will change. It's not something that you have to stay in until the end of your life, which is something that you probably thought up until today. It means that you have to make choices, bring about change. Your guidelines for this change are purity, and not only purity, purity encompasses all the 5 yamas. That means if you need change, that change cannot come by causing misery to others. See that? You can change today, bring about change today, but all those people that are involved will be affected by that in a negative way. There is violence involved. As a yogi, of course, you understand the law of karma. Although we haven't talked about it yet, we will, for sure. You understand the law of karma. Violence begets violence. So, to avoid replacing one misery with another misery, there is no other way than to respect non-violence, non-lying, non-stealing, non-unchaste behavior, and non-desire. Interestingly, you may see what I experienced also after I started practicing yoga, that the misery that you try to solve, in the process you take the people in tow with you, especially if it's about family. If it's about family, your change, your transformation, your increasing harmony will change the people that were causing the misery. But it sounds a little bit negative if I talk about people causing the misery, because the people causing the misery will think that you are causing the misery. See? It's not that simple, it's not that easy. But your harmony increases. The way that you act, the way that you behave within that group of misery changes to such an extent that not only you become happier, healthier, more harmonious, also the people involved. Only you have to work on your yoga mat. They get it for free from you. But it takes time. If you do it the right way, in respect of the yamas and the practice of purity, it takes time. But time, that's all you have. People are always in a hurry, and we talked about that also during non-desire. People are always in a hurry, things need to be done yesterday. Everything has to be, the Pali culture in Korea has many good points, but sometimes it has a negative point too, and that is things, especially when it is about life, about happiness, about development and growth, things take time. Processes take time, and we need to respect the process. If we don't respect the process, it causes waves, and waves translate in your suffering. So quietly go to work, what it is that you need to do. And be nice to the people that cause the misery, or that cause the misery in your experience. Because when you start being nice, something that you couldn't before because of your suffering, they start becoming nice too. It's reciprocal. It's just a natural law or a universal law. So accept and go to work. Accept means practice of contentment. Harmony occurs, allowing you to oversee the situation from above as a third person, and in that process, automatically the solution presents itself. And not only that, your behavior changes, you will function more and more based on your heart as a result of your increasing harmony. Instead of from your belly with anger and aggression, emotion, etc., you will start working more and more from your heart. Even without you realizing or noticing what is happening, people feel that. They feel your harmony, they feel your compassion, that you care, that you actually care. While we live in a world where so many people are so cold-hearted or seemingly cold-hearted and do not care, people start to notice. And it changes them too. And be patient. Contentment means also in this process that you say to yourself, well, I wish that things would change tomorrow, but I'm content. Because now, for the first time in my life, I understand how it works. And now I know what I need to do. Yes, it may take a year or more, but I know what to do. Isn't that wonderful? That is contentment. You go into a conversation with yourself, talking yourself into contentment. It's something that you must actively implement into your life. Same as with purity. It's something that you need to actively pursue. Not passive. You know, there are people who say, if God wants it, then it will happen. Especially government officials in certain countries. I'm just kidding. But it's true. Misinterpretation of religion. In yoga we have the principle too. The universe has a plan. The universe decides. If it is meant to be, then it will happen. But you know, there is another saying that many people often forget, that says, God helps only those that help themselves. Many people use, the principle is correct. If it is meant to be, then it will happen. If it is not meant to be, you will fight windmills. You will bump into concrete walls. The struggle will be immense. If it is meant to be, it happens naturally, smoothly. But the same principle, as with contentment, people use it as an excuse for laziness. You know, I should stay away a little bit from politics and religion, but there are religions where people say, Inshallah. And they say it 100 times a day. You know what it means?
God willing.
Yeah, God willing. And so they sit just like this, and they say, Inshallah. And nothing happens. Right? You recognize. Nothing happens. That is not correct. That is impure. Very impure. First paragraph. Contentment is only possible if it has a firm basis in practice of purity. God helps only those that help themselves means live your life day by day in a positive way. No matter your misery, no matter your struggles. Do not become passive, because the moment you become passive, you block the process that is meant for you. The process that the universe has there for you, ready for you, will not manifest if you approach life acting like a victim, in a victim role. Keep a positive mind. Contentment is, in fact, choosing to remain positive in difficult circumstances, especially like war or famine, or in a difficult, complicated family situation or at work. Remain positive and go from there as a starting point. Go from there, slowly but certainly implement small changes. And when it comes to the work environment, you will see that in a certain period of time, you will change your job. Either you change your job or you start working independently. You start your own business one way or another. But it takes years. The moment that you realize that there is a way, you have to approach that step by step. You need to re-educate yourself, you need to reorientate yourself, you need to wait for an opportunity to come, etc. There are many conditions that need to be met before the big step towards change can be made. But until then, stay positive and active. When you become passive and negative, having a sense of victimhood, which is a natural human trait, a natural human characteristic is to feel the victim. Oh, the whole world is against me. Oh, every day I'm so miserable and everybody else is laughing and happy. It blocks your process and it keeps you from moving on and evolving, changing. So keep that in mind. And in regard to the situation that I painted about my grandfather, I do that with a smile. People are just people, and there are so many different characters, personalities. As a yogi, becoming more and more conscious and with your heart opening, you cannot shirk, is that the right word? Shirk your responsibility. You cannot avoid your duties and responsibilities anymore. So it's just a natural process, you will see, like happened with me. You know, people are always busy with what they want to do. You ask me, what do you want to do, Ron? I actually have no idea. Because what I do in my life these days, have been for many years, is I just do what I have to do. It's not a question of what I want to do. I just do what I have to do. Responsibilities, duties. And actually that's what makes me happy. If you ask me what do you want to do, yeah, I would like to go deep sea diving in somewhere nice, tropical, say Bali. I want to go to Bali, deep sea diving. For many people it's very important, and maybe 20 years ago for me that could have been very important too. Now, for me, it has no meaning anymore. It's futile, a waste of time, energy and money. And the money actually really is not important, it's the time and the energy. It has no meaning anymore. A bucket list, throw away, many people have bucket lists, throw away your bucket list. It is the #1 reason for many people's restlessness. What is a bucket list? It's something that you need to do before you die. And we say YOLO. I have to do it because YOLO. You live only once. That's pure fear in Muladhara Chakra. Do you realize that? It's not a luxury or a fashion, which many people think. YOLO is fear. Fear that you miss going to the moon, or the Eiffel Tower in Paris, or the Chinese big wall, or deep sea diving in Bali. I'm joking. It is, again, the challenge of the time that we are living in. Because you can go to Bali, because you can visit the Great Wall in China, because you can, if you have enough money, you can fly to the moon. Virgin Atlantic is going to make that possible, and the other guys are going to make that possible soon, that if you have enough money, you can fly to the moon. You can, but it only causes restlessness, these kind of adventures. If you feel the need to do it, do it. But as a yogi, from today you do it consciously, and you see consciously what it is doing to you, the restlessness, and eventually the inflated balloon that it appears to be, that when you've done it, it becomes deflated. It has no meaning anymore. Do a couple of those things in your life and then leave it behind, because life is much more wonderful if you focus on the essence of it. And the essence of it is simply day-by-day life. Questions about contentment? Interesting, huh? Yes? Sia, right?
Yes. How do you know that the right time has come? Like, for example, what you are always thinking about is, okay, let's say starting your own business. And you said, like, we need the process.
Yes.
It's going to take years. And how do you actually know that, like, you're ready? Does it just come from your mind when you practice yoga, or is there like a sign? Like, how do you know?
I have many examples, because my life is a chain event of these kind of things. It took me 9 years to prepare to come to Korea. Okay, there were 7 other guys who practiced Hapkido with me in Amsterdam, and within a year of our Hapkido teacher leaving, they came to Korea. Within a year. At the time I was very sad. I wanted to go too. I should be the first one to go, because I dedicated my 6 days a week. I was there, and I spent a lot of time with this Korean master when he had lots of trouble. He didn't speak Dutch, of course, and English barely. And I drove him around, and I took him everywhere he wanted to go. And I should have been the first one to go. I was the last one. They all went without proper preparation like a yogi does. So they didn't wait for the right moment to come. For me, it took 9 years. They forced their plan. One of them came back after 4 months. One of them came back after 6 months. One stayed for 8 months, and the last one that stayed 1 year, and came back. And they all went back to their normal life. It took me 9 years and a lot of, I lost all my hair in that time. A lot of doubt. Yeah, seriously, a lot of doubt and a lot of ups and downs, and then it just happens. But what I did in those 9 years, I went to school, night school. I felt I needed to complete my education. I studied business administration and economics, because of the possibility that one day I'm going to run my own business. Of course, I attended yoga courses with Ajita during all that time, for years, because I knew if I go and stay in Korea, that will be my best chance to survive. I don't have a contract from a big company like Philips or Shell or Unilever. But yoga you can do anywhere in the world if you're good at what you do. So that was a priority. And the third important thing, so education, yoga, also education, training, and earning enough money, gathering enough money, saving enough money to have some room, not to be forced to go back within a year. Then came the point that it went very naturally. I got my diplomas from my education. I finished my courses with Ajita, and I had enough money. And then what came into my mind was, well, if I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. So I just went. First I came in 1996 for 3 weeks, and I fell in love with Korea. Even though many miserable things happened in those 3 weeks. You can call me naive or stupid, but I followed my heart and not my mind. My mind told me never go back there. More misery will happen. But my heart told me this is the place to be. I had many déjà vu experiences. So my heart was already here. In Korea, I had a yoga school in Itaewon, 2002 to 2007. And like I told you before, I'm really not good at promoting myself. So, very bad at you know, the social media and advertising, and I'm a yogi, not a marketing specialist. Maybe on top of the business administration and economics, I should have taken a course in marketing, which were widely available. But that is totally polluting what you do as a yogi, keeping yourself busy with money affairs actually marketing, I think we come back to that later. Actually, marketing is based on fooling people. Really, marketing is based on fooling people, thinking that they need something that they actually don't need. The whole economy is built on that idea. And we're talking about purity and contentment, and you know, so there is a clash there. So 2007, I just walked into a brick wall. I became exhausted, and the number of students were declining, and the rent of the studio went up, and out of sheer misery, I had to close the school, not knowing what to do next. And you think for a moment, oh my God, what did I do with my life? Was I so stupid and naive, innocent, to just give up everything in Holland for this stupid dream? But that is thoughts that are fueled from below the diaphragm. So I started thinking about going to Australia. I went to Kimpo Airport. I talked with people from there is a fly school in Kimpo Airport. You can learn to fly on a one-engine small airplane for 10 million won. $10,000 you can get a pilot license. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive now. It's 15 years later now. I started planning going to Australia. But you know, the process to close the yoga studio in Itaewon is very painful. You have to order the demolition team. They come and they break all the walls and the wonderful cherry wooden floor, and that really broke my heart. But it is something that has to be done. So as a yogi, you tell yourself, this is just, it has to be done, and what comes after you will see. So interestingly, when everything was done, I locked the door and I threw the keys into the mailbox of the owner of the building, and I felt a big relief, no regret. And I just went about my life dreaming about going to Australia, possibilities of what you can do there. Just like in Korea, there are many possibilities. And then after 3 weeks after closing the yoga school, the telephone rang. Hey Ron, it's Ray. I want to meet you. I read an article about you, an interview, and I'm very intrigued about what you do. We are going to start a new gym. It will be the biggest gym in Korea, and I want you to run the yoga department. So I said, Ray, I just closed my yoga school, and I'm really not interested in working with a Korean businessman or a businessman. Hey Ron, hey, why don't you come to Apgujeong and have a cup of coffee with me? I just want to see you. I just want to... So, oh, okay. Okay, but I'm not interested. But I closed my school, I had nothing to do. So you go anyway. And the reason why you go is because it's meant to be. So you just go. I went there, I talked with him for more than an hour drinking coffee. And the conclusion after the first meeting was, I'm not interested. So I went home in my little Deu Matisse, driving on the Olympic Highway from Apgujeong to Mokdong. I lived in Mokdong at the time. And while I was driving on the highway, already Ray called again and he said, hey Ron, thank you for coming today. Why don't we meet again next Thursday? Have another coffee, I want to meet you again. So I thought, what on earth is this? I just told you, I'm not interested. You call me even 15 minutes after we said goodbye, you call me again. So I said, okay, let's meet again next week. Nothing to do. So I went again. Next Thursday I went again and we met and we drank coffee. And you know, the guy, I call him a yogi businessman. Later. At that time I wasn't sure yet, so I told him again after the second meeting, I'm not interested. I'm not going to work with you. I'm sick and tired of all the conflict and misery and the lies and the broken promises. And so he didn't call me when I went back while I was driving, but he called me a couple of days later, or he called me a week later and he said, Ron, where are you at? That's how he says, huh? He doesn't say, where are you? He says, where are you at? So, well, I'm at home in Mokdong. Hey, can you come to Yoido? I'm in Yoido and the gym is under construction, but I want to show you your studio. So, okay. So I went to Yoido and then he took me to the third floor. He said, Ron, this big studio is for the members. This small studio is for you. You can do what you want. You can do your teacher training courses. He calls it master course. You can do your master course. You take care of our program. We will pay you for that. In the other room, you can just use and just do whatever you want. The big room was bigger than this one. The smaller room was 2/3 of this room. So I thought, wow, this is nice. 2 studios. And then I said, okay. I started to warm up to the idea. Just give it a chance. It was meant to be. Okay? So it's something that you feel. I was determined not to work with him, but I gave it a chance anyway, and when it felt right, I stepped into it. Now don't get me wrong, it caused a lot of misery too. But it's a process. Life is one big process, and there is a constant development, a constant growth. Now we are here. I'm at the point that I want to have my own studio again, but with a very different approach than the first time in Itaewon. I was still a radical at that time, an extremist. If I had not allowed those steps to guide me, if I had not allowed the universe to guide me following my heart, I would have probably had to go back to Holland and just have a normal average job like everybody else, and possibly grow a big beer belly, watching soccer every day. At the gym, they make it profitable and then they sell it. So my initial feeling about not working with a businessman was correct. After 2 years they sold it. New owners of the building and new owners of the gym. And many of the other people they recruited, the golf instructors, the Pilates instructors, the PT trainers, many of them left. I was the only one that stayed. I managed to stay there, to hang in there for 8 years, in spite of all the efforts they did to get rid of me. I'm stubborn Dutch cheesehead, and a yogi on top of that. But you know why? Because I need stability. It's what I'm teaching you time and time again. Stability leads to growth, leads to development. And I try to stretch it out as long as possible. Until the end of 2015, I had to leave. There was no other way anymore. And from there was kind of a decline. It sounds not good if I say it like this. If I look back now, I suffered a lot. 2016, 2017, 2018. And then I said, okay, I'm going to take a sabbatical. You were in the last course, but you were not there. But while we were doing the last course in 2018, I was already talking about taking a sabbatical. I didn't know how to do that or what to do, or I was just feeling that I need to take distance from it. I need to take a break. And then even that happened just in a natural way. I had done, the open day, the workshops, I'd done in January and February. I was just actually going to continue, even though I felt the need to stop. But then there were not so many people registering for the course, and the advanced course also. There were only 4 people left, of whom nobody showed up on the first day of the third module. So I was done. And actually I was really done. I thought I was in a condition at that time that I thought I'm never going to teach anymore. I'm a fake yogi, a nonsense yoga teacher. I'm not good at what I do. And I became very, very negative. I really thought I'm done. Then the dog came. First Pata came, and then Bobby came, and most people would would not accept that kind of duty, the universe put him on my path, and it changed everything. I accepted the challenge. I accepted the duty that the universe was giving me, following my heart. I looked the dog in his eye. I didn't think, oh, he needs me. I thought, he needs me, but I need him too. It gave life color again. It gave life joy again. Even though they destroyed half my house and so much worry and stress, he ran away again. And you know that both of them had never experienced life in a family, so it took a long time to acclimatize. But I did it with love. I did it with my heart and my full engagement. If I had started my course in the beginning of 2019, I wouldn't even have been able to rescue them. So the universe gave me a break, not to be lazy and take a rest, but to take care of some other creatures that need care. And in the meantime, the universe prepared something new. And by the end of 2019, I had not made up my mind about starting a course again until the phone rang again. This time it was not a phone call, but it was a Kakao talk. Pop-up. Hey Ron, I'm in Yangtze, I'm talking with Mr. Han. And Mr. Han, well, he has a studio in Yoido and we're talking about you, and actually he says you can use his studio. Yoido? That's the universe providing. Because I want to stay in Yoido, and if possible, I want to stay close to home because of the dogs. And there it is. That was Neda. Neda did it. She's the culprit. No, but yes, every time. But you know, I didn't force anything. In that year, I thought, oh my God, I'm getting too old for this. Why am I ending up in a situation like this again? And I should stop with all this foolishness. But you know, everything has a reason and a purpose. I needed that break. I needed that distance to overlook the situation as a third person, and I made some very important decisions at the very last time of that year that I took a break. And that is what I'm now working towards. And I think I'm a better and more inspired teacher than I was in 2018 as a result of all this. And that is the only thing that counts. That is the only thing that counts. That year of misery, I smile about that year of misery. I needed that, and the universe gave me that. It's like giving a kick in the butt. So maybe you think I'm not answering your question, but I am. Because what we need to do is go about our daily business and be patient, especially be patient. But you have something in mind, in your heart. Keep it in your heart. I kept my adventure to come to Korea in my heart for 9 years. And I had the most miserable jobs during that time, and I performed those jobs with a smile, whistling, singing. Keep doing what you do, but knowing that something will change. You determine today where you want to go. Not tomorrow, but 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And then slowly but certainly start working towards that. There are things, in a material sense, you need to lay the foundation. That is what you keep focusing on. The universe will tell you when it is time to make the next move. But the universe doesn't give you that opportunity if you are lazy, if you are passive, if you act like a victim. And it's not easy. The life of a spiritual person is not easy. That is not my words, that is every holy book mentions the penitence of the holy person. You are all on your path to be a holy person, or you already are to some extent. But your increased consciousness automatically entails not only that you're happier and healthier and experience a higher sense of well-being, but also part of the package is the penitence of the spiritual person. There is a part, misery, in that package, which if you don't understand it, just makes you suffer. But if you understand it, you see it as a necessity, because as long as you feel good and everything is prosperous, you don't change. You get stuck. I got stuck in the gym in Yoido because it was all so nice and so stable. I got stuck. And it felt actually not good. So the universe gave me a lot of misery, and I thought, that's not really what I wanted. But it's only an intermediate step. The misery makes you realize things. The misery makes you make choices that you otherwise wouldn't take. The misery makes you come out of your comfort zone that otherwise you would just indulge in and get stuck. So from today, when you experience misery, try to see it as a positive thing. Sounds weird, but it is a positive thing if you do with your misery what it is designed to make you do, and that is increase your consciousness about yourself, your awareness of yourself, and to stimulate you to go towards your goal. When everything is comfortable, you don't move. It's a human characteristic. I fell into that trap too. So you get misery. The misery makes you realize you're not supposed to be comfortable until you breathe your last breath. And that sounds exhausting, but you have to find a balance. And when you find that balance, life is wonderful. I feel I'm getting closer and closer towards that balance. But then again, the moment that I say that, the universe says, here you have another portion of misery. Because they can be kind of sarcastic up there. Well, just smile. Because if you know how it works, you take it for what it is, and it always has a good outcome. The last year was really scary for me. As a foreigner, I threw away my Dutch nationality. I also threw away my ambition to teach yoga. And I thought, my God, I can't go back to Holland. I have no family here, friends. What the hell am I doing? It was really scary. But then, Pokkoek, studio in Yoido, and I think, why did I worry so much? Why was I so scared about everything? I just should have focused on the daily things, which I did the best I could, but I had my sleepless nights and waking up 3:30 in the middle of the night with a pounding heart in my chest and anxiety, panic attacks. It's part of the process. It forces you to think. It forces you to make decisions you otherwise not willing to make or take. It also turns an extremist into a person with an open heart that approaches everything with love rather than with a mental attitude. If you have questions about it, very specific, let me know. But the basis is this: contentment, patience, and try to determine for yourself what you want further down the road. Because if you're not satisfied about your situation today, but you don't know what you want instead, the universe can't help you. And another very important thing, practice yoga. No, not a joke. Yoga creates that condition that allows you to see different angles. Yoga creates that contemplative mood in which you see things you otherwise don't see. And there you find your answers. You know, when you watch manhwa, when you watch cartoons, when a character in a cartoon has a bright idea, there is a light bulb above their head that shines light. That happens literally. When you're in a contemplative mood, your energy is here. And because of that, you are allowed to see, to oversee situations from all possible directions and angles. And suddenly, without effort, boing, the light goes on and you have an answer to a very difficult problem. Without effort. All you have to do is close your eyes and be silent. Whenever you have a problem, try to have the discipline to sit on your cushion, close your eyes and just be silent. You will see the answers will come very naturally. The insights will come very naturally. Yoga is not a luxury. In most yoga studios it is approached in that way, but it is a life science. It's not an exercise or a stretch or a diet, whatever they call it. It's a life science. Okay, let's have a short break. Thank you for the question, Sia.